Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. As you guys know, I absolutely love medicine and primarily most of my content is medicine related. However, one of my second passions is reading. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through one of the books that I read. It's called The Betrayal of Anne Frank, a cold case investigation. Hi, I'm Dr. Shah, and typically I make videos on being a rural family medicine resident and my journey through residency. And a part of my life now that I'm working on is work-life balance. So now I'm going to be trying to bring that to my YouTube channel as well. And here's a little bit more of life. I actually recently joined a book club, as I said. The book that was selected for this month is a nonfiction book called The Betrayal of Anne Frank. So we're going to go through a very brief synopsis of what this book is about. This book is a nonfiction book, and it covers the work that spanned over 6 years, and it's a modern investigation into an age-old question about who actually betrayed Anne Frank. What they did was they gathered a large group of investigators from all these different fields, from behavioral psychology, from detectives, from criminology. One of the members of the cold case team is a retired FBI agent. So what they did was they took modern FBI methods and applied them to this cold case, and with the goal of trying to figure out who actually betrayed the Frank family and who led to the arrest of these individuals in the annex that fateful day. So it was insane. Like, some of the techniques that the team used included like this artificial intelligence program that was developed by Microsoft to aid the team in this investigation. They also had some big data techniques, data scientists pulling a lot of different information together to try to formulate a way to figure out what may have happened. The key thing is that these are all theories, and that is very important to remember, and I will address that a little bit later, but that is key to remember, that these are just that, they're theories. The authors of this book actually do go over that and emphasize that point precisely because at this point in our history, and at the time of this filming, it's 2022, it is not really possible, based on the information that we have right now, that we are publicly aware of, to know exactly with full confidence who was responsible for the arrest of the Franks that day in the annex. We don't know that. What this book aims to do is try to pinpoint who may be responsible. So I'm just going to go through several of the biggest theories that they cover in this book. I'm not going to actually say the names of the individuals who are suspected to be informants. And the reason, in my rationale, is that we actually don't know who this person is, and these are just theories. And I personally feel that it wouldn't be responsible of me to say the names of these individuals because, even though they're not here, I don't want to cause unnecessary distress to their descendants who had nothing to do with this scenario, and we just still don't know. So I'm personally choosing not to include their names. If you would like, you are more than welcome to read the book. Always remember, these are just theories. Having said that, let's get right into it. So the first person that is a suspect is someone who is a manager at the warehouse. So essentially, the Franks lived in the annex, or like the attic area, a hidden attic portion of his own warehouse. Just to put a little visual in it, you can Google it and you can see it. You go to Amsterdam, you can go actually see the Anne Frank house. But essentially, the way that these houses are set up at that time and these warehouses are set up at the time, they're very, very close by to each other. So they're very cramped and narrow spaces. So essentially, what you have is that you have a warehouse, and the attic of the warehouse was a secret little attic and had a secret pathway, which is where all 8 of the individuals were staying and hiding. Basically, one of the theories is that there was a new manager. Essentially, there was a group of core individuals that were responsible for helping Otto Frank and his family and the other family that lived with them hide away for the duration of the 2 years. However, the manager of the warehouse, who was initially involved in this whole plan, he got sick and he had to leave the post due to health reasons. So they got a new manager, and this manager, he was not in the inner circle of trust. So he was unusually inquisitive, and he had a lot of questions, and based on the type of questions that he was asking, there's some degree of speculation that he may be responsible for being an informant. But again, not confirmed. The second person that is considered to be a possible informant is the wife of one of the assistants that used to also work at the warehouse. So it was reported that she, enjoyed gossiping and enjoyed sharing information. And so it is thought that it is a likely possibility that she may have overheard or found out that there were individuals hiding, and may not necessarily have known who, but have known that there may have been individuals hiding in the annex and may have told the Nazis and been an informant. The third person is there was an individual that used to be an employee of Otto Frank. So they used to work together at the warehouse, and then some beef happened. Basically, this person was let go. The reason why it's suspected that this individual may have been an informant is because he actually reported Otto Frank for being treasonous, because they one time met on a sidewalk, and apparently Otto Frank said that he thought the Germans were going to lose the war. So this individual, who was an ex-employee, took it upon himself to report Mr. Frank for being treasonous, and obviously that has its implications, being a Jewish person at that time. So this person is suspected to may have possibly been an informant. Another individual is this shady character. They don't delve too much into this particular theory as much, because this person played a very it's difficult to gather too much information about this individual. He wasn't directly related to the Franks via like their business connections or their social circle. There is evidence to suggest that he may have found out and intercepted a letter that was planning to give away the Franks' hiding spot, and he tried to use that to his advantage and tried to essentially be an opportunist, and when it didn't work out, he sold out the Franks. So that's another theory. The fifth theory is there was a member of the Jewish Vfroch. So just a little background, the Vfroch. V actually comes from this Dutch word that I'm probably going to butcher, but it's called Vertrovens. Essentially, basically, these group of Jewish Vfroch were a group of people that were working with the Nazis. So what they used to do was that they would use their position of, trust and like try to garner trust amongst members of the Jewish community and all the other undesirables that the other individuals that the Nazis deemed to be undesirable, and try to gather information and use that to their advantage and sell out people that were in hiding, or people that were helping people that were in hiding. And then they would get paid for this. So that was a little thing that was going on. There was one woman that was part of this group, and based on the data that is gathered, she was one of the people that found the most number of people in hiding and sold them out. Basically, what would happen is she would be a plant. So when people were imprisoned, they would, like the people in charge, they would put her in the same cell, and she would try to garner the trust of her fellow prisoners and try to get information out of them. And just basically by saying, hey, I'm Jewish, I'm going through the same thing, I think I can get away, I can get some information out to the outside world to help whoever else is hiding. And in that way, she would gather trust and try to get information that way. So it's suspected that she may have been able to acquire information and found out that there may have been people hiding at the annex and given that information away. So that is one of the other theories. The sixth theory is that one of the sisters of the people that was helping Otto Frank and the rest of the individuals hide, she may have given them away. And the reason and the rationale for that is, given that her sister was one of the people that were, involved in the inner circle of the Franks and helping hide them, that person would have been responsible for, helping the Franks out with food, with getting any supplies that they may need. And in this way, perhaps it is possible that over the span of 2 years, the helper may have, said something, or somehow the sister found out that there may be Jewish people that were hiding in the annex and gave that information away. She was known to be consorting with German soldiers, and after the fact, after the war ended and there was investigations going into all these people that were informants, she would start to just faint. every time the conversation came up about the annex. So I mean, she could have had a fainting condition, she could have had a medical condition, we don't really know for sure, but that's what one of the theories is. And then the other theory is that maybe there was no informant. It could be just possible that there was a raid that was, you know, called on the warehouse, maybe because there was complaints about unusual noises or labor disputes, or, you know, maybe they found out there was some hoarding of food ration. So they could have just gone there and found out that there was some signs that gave away that there was possibly someone hiding. A little side note, what basically used to happen is that when people were hiding, there were telltale signs. For example, where the Franks were hiding, there was a custom bookshelf that was made that was rolled in and out. Over the course of the years, over the 2 years that they were hiding there, as you can imagine, when you have such a heavy bookshelf being moved back and forth, the grooves that the wheels make on the floor, they start to really make indentations. So these are known as telltale signs that you can see that maybe, you know, this is a hiding spot. So it is possible that the raid was made for a separate reason, and then while the detectives were there, they saw that there was these telltale signs, picked up on it, and it was just a terrible coincidence. That is another theory. And the very last one is the one that the book suspects is the most likely scenario, and it is the theory that they believe is the most likely situation. Again, I emphasize likely and the fact that it's a theory. So essentially, they found a copy of an anonymous note that was sent to Otto Frank after the war. And this note named this individual as the person who was the informant. Now, it's important to note that Otto Frank and none of the other helpers ever actually told anybody who the culprit was, and it is believed that Otto Frank and some of his most closest individuals knew who the person was, but again, it's important to note that they never revealed it. So it's, you know, it's never actually fully known. But apparently there was a note that was given to Otto Frank that said that this individual was the person that was responsible. And then the team did a lot of deep digging and some investigative work, and the book goes into all the minutia, covers all the details of it, but the gist of it is that there was this Jewish notary who is suspected to have given the Nazis a list of the addresses of places that were suspected to have individuals hiding in them in order to save his own family. So that is the theory that they believe is most likely. According to the information that was uncovered, the most likely motive for this individual to give away those addresses, not to be like as a personal attack to Otto Frank for some sort of revenge, but primarily as a way to prevent his own family and save them from deportation and being transported to the concentration camps. So that is the main theory that the book focuses on. That is the primary theory that the book lands on ultimately at the end, and thinks that it is the most likely scenario of what may have happened. Again, this is a theory. To that point, you know, that is exactly why I haven't specifically named any of these names, because in the news there was a lot of backlash this past week actually about how there was these six Dutch historians that submitted a 69-page rebuttal about the fact that the investigative work that was done in this book did not hold up against scrutiny. They felt that a lot of the theories were based on a lot of assumption and inferences, and it was essentially like a shaky house of cards, and they didn't feel that such a grave accusation was fully justified based on the investigative work that was done. So yes, that's what happened. It was in the news just literally last week. So that's the other thing. You have the granddaughter of this Jewish notary that has come out to state that she believes that her grandfather was turned into a scapegoat for this whole situation. So again, we don't know the truth, and these are just theories. but that is what is going on. So I just want to share a few of my thoughts. So for me, I was particularly drawn to this book because I am fascinated with World War II history. I really enjoy it. I love learning about it. I think it is incredibly fascinating. It just blows my mind, and I think it's so important for us to remember the mistakes of the past lest we repeat them. So I just find it fascinating. And I think growing up, everyone knew the story of Anne Frank, and she was such a relatable character, and being such an innocent child amongst like the horrific atrocities. I think the dichotomy of that it just really captures you. Like it just really sticks with you. It's always one of the things when I first started this book, I really wanted to know who was responsible, who gave them out. But I think as I read this book, for me personally, it became less about the individuals that were responsible for the arrest of the Frank family, and more so about how was it like actually living in Amsterdam in Nazi occupied territory. What was it like? What were the motivations? What were the rationales? What were the regular day-to-day people going through? What were the people that were Dutch, that were, Jewish, that were German? What was all the different... I think that it was way more enlightening for me to see what life was like for people that were living during that time and living through that time. I think for me, by the end of the book, it became less of like a whodunit and more of how did the Nazis create such an environment that such a close-knit community just started turning on each other? How do they create such a violent and atrocious atmosphere? That's what it really became for me. You can see through the book that there are beacons of light and hope and resilience and resistance, and you can also see people who are just placed in really impossible situations. And I think it just provided a beautifully nuanced look at what life was like. So that was a little update on the first book that I read as part of a book club. I hope you guys enjoy this video. It's a little different from my usual content. I will try to make these videos perhaps once a month as part of a review of the books that we're reading that month. And I hope you guys like it. See you in the next one. Bye.